This is Wildcat Country.
It's only right. The ball's in his hands. A milestone victory for Arizona. Simon says championship.
All the inside scoop on U of A athletics.
It's up for the end zone. Arizona has scored the touchdown. Wildcats win.
Let's go to work, brother.
Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country, powered by Backcourt Marketing. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale. And for once, we don't have a football loss to talk about, or I guess the rare football win. So we have one basketball game to talk about. One got postponed due to COVID. We're going to talk about that. And then Adam Gorney from Rivals and Yahoo Sports, the national recruiting director, going to join us. We're going to talk about Arizona's top 40 ranking. Will it hold or will it not? So much to discuss today, Shane, and we'll do a little college football playoff and a pick on the U of A Illinois game to end the show, since we don't have college football picks, which, by the way, you ended the regular season 3 games up on me. So I'm going to have to create as many postseason picks.
You're going to make us pick all the bowl games, aren't you?
No, not all the bowl, just the ones that are, notable with teams that we care about, just so I can try to get back in it. Yeah, so we tied last week. But let's get right into our new segment called Buy or Sell. And we'll start with the basketball team. And, my opinion is that Arizona got robbed by not jumping into the top 10 in this week's rankings because they only played one game against Oregon State, even though it was really impressive. Are you buying or selling the fact that Arizona got robbed by not being in the top 10, Shane?
Well, I believe there's only one top 10 team that lost last week, and it was Gonzaga, correct? And they lost to
Alabama.
Alabama. Thank you.
Yes.
And Gonzaga was ranked number 3, so I don't think they were going to fall out of the top 10, losing to a ranked team. So I'm selling the idea they got robbed. I'm fine with it. I mean, Oregon State, it was an impressive win, but Oregon State may be the worst team in the Pac-12, and that includes ASU.
Oh, Shane, so that's my guy Tinkle.
I know you wanted him to be the next Arizona coach, but he's 1-8 at Corvallis, so I'm glad we avoided that landmine. But I'm not sweating it. Look, if they beat and Wyoming's going to be a tough game too. I know we're going to talk about Illinois, but Wyoming's undefeated as well. Their GCU's only loss of the season. They're undefeated. They're number 12 in the net rankings, which just came out. Arizona's number 3. So number 1, the rankings don't matter. They're pretty. It's nice to look at, but they don't matter in college basketball. And number 2, if they keep winning, they'll move up. And if they beat Wyoming and Illinois this week, they will be in the top 10.
Now, just to preface this, you may be listening after the Wyoming game, which is on Wednesday night. We're recording this on Tuesday. So let's hope the Wildcats don't lose to Wyoming and then all this is out the window. But I'm confident that in the matchup of undefeated, Arizona just playing so well right now. Number 2, Shane, scheduling a makeup game against a bad Washington team was a good idea. As compared to taking the forfeit like UCLA did. Are you buying that theory or selling it?
Let me ask you first, because you always ask the questions. Let me ask you first on this one, and I'll go.
To me, I would sell it. I don't think it's a good idea. I know why they did it, because they want the they want the revenue that you're going to get from McHale Center. Even on Tuesday night, you're going to get 12,000 people or whatever to sell tickets. But Washington's not very good, and it's not going to affect Arizona's RPI one way or the other. I'd rather not play the game. Keep your guys fresh at that point in the season. So I'm selling that concept.
Look at it this way, Eric. Say Arizona's going to hit some bumps in the road at some point. It could be as early as this week. And what they have, teams have what they call a get right game. Where they sort of get their troubles figured out against a bad team. Washington, maybe they're the get-right game for Arizona. I hope it doesn't come to that, and I hope they don't need it. But I don't think it's a bad thing to have an extra game. The only negative, in my opinion, is that it's another opportunity for injuries. But those can happen in practice, too. So I think it was I'll buy it. The question was it a good idea? I'll buy it. I like the fact that they have the game, and I like the fact that people bought tickets to the game will be able to see it, too.
Number 3, Ben Matherin, who is all over the place for his amazing dunks against Oregon State, Sports Center, top 10, all that. He is a legitimate All-American candidate. Are you buying or selling that?
Yeah, Brad Ellis, our friend, tweeted during the game that has to be a all-time top 10 dunk for Arizona. And I said,
wow,
which one? He had a couple of them in that game. Mm-hmm. I know which one he's talking about, the behind the back one in transition from the pass from Kirk Creason. But he had a couple of them. I think you could get there if I had to pick as of now, which would be weird because we're just a few games into the season. But if we did, I probably wouldn't put him there yet because I think he's been kind of inconsistent. He started off the year kind of slow. If he keeps that up, absolutely, he'll be an All-American. Am I buying the idea that he can be? Sure, absolutely, he can be.
I am going to sell that. I don't think he's there yet, but I think he's, third team, or honorable mention, something like that. But we're not there yet. All right, number 4. The top 3 teams in the Pac-12 are UCLA, USC, and Arizona in some order. Buy or sell that?
Buy that. Yeah. USC is undefeated. Arizona's undefeated, and UCLA is close. They had the big time loss to Gonzaga, but they're very good. I would still pick them. I know Wildcat fans are going crazy. We're going to the Final Four, and we're going to be. Maybe some fans aren't thinking that way. Maybe they're guarding their hearts like I am. But I think UCLA is still the team to beat in the conference. But as far as top 3, absolutely, it's Arizona and then the 2 LA schools. Oregon has dropped off the face of the earth.
Lost to ASU.
An ASU team that scored 29 points, 9 fewer than the football team did in the Territorial Cup game to Washington State. And Washington State, by the way, is a decent team.
Good, yeah. They're top 5. Washington State's top 5. Yeah.
Your guy Lenardi had him as an NCAA tournament team.
Probably had him ahead of Arizona.
Probably, he actually did.
Are you serious?
He did, yeah. He had Washington State as the last team in, and Arizona is one of the next 4 out.
You should. To have that job as a bracketologist,
I shouldn't have brought this up.
You should have like an unbiased, like you have to be unbiased about it. You can't have biases like Lunardi does.
All right.
I mean, all right. I'm
going to try to redirect us. It's my fault. I went there. It's my fault.
All right. So I'm going
to summarize, I buy that one. Yes. I think those are the top 3 teams right now.
All right. This is a bonus question, not part of buy or sell.
All right.
So I wrote on Twitter last week, or I think earlier this week. So Arizona's got 4 tough road games in the next month, at Illinois Saturday, at Tennessee. I believe that's next week. Then you've got, at UCLA and at USC. I said if Arizona goes 2-2, I'd be thrilled. Is that a reasonable expectation as compared to the people saying 4-0 on my timeline?
2-2 is absolutely reasonable. Yes. And look, I'm still not sure how good this team is. They've looked fantastic, as good as I could possibly expect. And that's with them not shooting the 3-ball well, which I think is going to change. They have a lot of good shooters on this team. I think eventually they're going to start shooting well from 3. With that said, I mentioned it a week or 2 ago. How good is Michigan really? We're not sure yet. They were ranked number 4 at the beginning of the season, but we don't really know how good they are. Wichita State might end up being a pretty good team, but Arizona almost lost that game, and they wouldn't have even had a chance to play Michigan. So I'm not trying to be a wet blanket. I'm just saying there's still a lot to unpack with this team. We're going to learn a lot more about them in the next couple of weeks. But as far as the 2-2, yeah, I think so. I think they're more than capable of going on the road in beating Illinois. They're capable of winning all of them. But I think as far as true road games, I love the fact that they're getting tested this early in the season as well. 2-2 and a little humility and learning some things about themselves in the process. I think that's fine.
I think 2-2 would be great. I would be ecstatic. I know people don't want to hear that. I think 1-3 is most realistic. You're looking at 3 teams that are all 4 teams are in the top 25. And to even get 1 win out of that, Shane, would be impressive. Let's be honest. 1 win out of those 4 games that's pretty good. That's a top 25 win. You don't want to go 0-4. That would be a nightmare. But I think 1-3 would be good. 2-2 would be great. 3-1 would be unbelievable. And 4-0, you can start talking about Final Four. How's that?
That sounds good. Yeah, I think I'm glad that you're not up, your head in the clouds there, like thinking, we're going to the Final Four. Cause I know you like to, in football,
yes.
Kevin Sumlin gets hired and you booked a hotel in Pasadena.
Yes. I did. No, I didn't, but I thought about it.
You thought about it.
I did think about it. That was a very, very, very bad idea on my part. Let's talk about football now. We've got Adam Gorney coming up here next segment. So Johnny Nansen was hired from UCLA as the new defensive coordinator for Arizona. And a lot of us wonder who the hell Johnny Nansen is. So I reached out to a guy that I know that used to play football at USC way back in the day. And he is well connected with the program. Nansen was an assistant coach there a few years ago. And so I said, well, what do you think of this guy? And his response was, quote, good guy. I was impressed with his demeanor, intensity, and seemed to be smart. He survived all of Helton's firings until the end when the AD forced staff firings. So the AD, could hire some new assistants and not fire Helton. He came to SC with Sarkisian and survived all the turmoil. Chip Kelly snapped him up when he was let go. I can't speak too much to his acumen, but he's seen a lot and appeared to be respected, and basically said that Arizona is Nansen is not going to be the problem for Arizona going forward. So that's encouraging. Now, I heard some other stuff that wasn't as encouraging about his X's and O's ability. We'll ask Adam Gorney about recruiting, but number 5 for buy or sell. He was the right defensive coordinator hire, and he will make an impact for Arizona, both recruiting and on the field schematically. Buy or sell that statement.
Well, I'm not sure about schematically. I don't think any of us are, but if I had to pick a buy or sell, I'll go with buy. I think he'll do a fantastic job recruiting. I don't think Arizona is going to lose much ground on the defensive side of the ball. And frankly, even though losing Don Brown was big, I think most players really commit to the position coaches ahead of the coordinators. So I think that they kept all their coordinators, or all the assistant coaches rather, intact. So I think that's a big deal. I think the only way Arizona was going to get a great recruiter like him was to give him a step up and make him, in this case, the defensive coordinator. I think that was kind of a trade-off. It's a bit of a gamble in that regard, but we know we're getting someone who knows recruiting and has a lot of experience in that area. Another thing I like about Nansen is he's been part of a rebuild. And he mentioned this in his introductory press conference last week. Washington went 0-12 the year before he got there. He was part of Steve Sarkisian's inaugural staff at Washington as the defensive line and special teams coach. They won 5 games in his first season, right after the 0-12 season, and 7 games the year after that. So he understands what it takes to take those methodical steps in the right direction, and what's going to take for Arizona to take that next step and become at least relevant again.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that we're all going to talk about over and over with Nansen is his recruiting ability. This guy is known as an ace recruiter. We'll talk to Adam about that here coming up shortly. But this is for what Jedd Fisch has brought to this program, which is, we're going to bring in better players. Well, you fulfilled that part of it. The problem is we don't know what this guy's like as a coach. So it's great if you bring in better players, but if you don't coach them well, it doesn't really matter, right?
But you know what? I think, Eric, that a lot of times that's what the position coaches are for. And then these guys aren't going to come to Arizona if they don't think that he can coach. So, one of the main reasons why guys pick a college isn't necessarily to go win football games, it's to get to that next level. That's probably the biggest reason. And so Nansen has proven to high school athletes, top high school athletes over and over, that he can help them get there.
By the way, some good news from the Arizona football department today. It was announced that Keon Barr's second team All Pac-12 on the defensive line, which was very impressive. And first team All Pac-12, Kyle Ostendorp, the punter, which who would have thought, because he was dreadful last year, made a huge turnaround. All Pac-12 first team. Stanley Berryhill, All Pac-12 first team as well, from a special teams returner position. So congratulations to those guys. Hey, at least there were some improvements, some bright spots in
let's not forget Tyler Loop made all of his kicks. I know he was kind of a tandem with Haverstick, because Haverstick was the big leg, but Loop was perfect.
Yeah, Loop did a great job. And special teams for Arizona, probably going to be good next year. That schedule, I can't wait until they announce the Pac-12 schedule. I don't know why these conferences can do it years in advance, but Pac-12 can't do it. So we don't know. We can't break it down. We know it's at San Diego State, Mississippi State, and then potential FCS champion North Dakota State, and then the Pac-12 schedules. We'll break that down when the schedule's announced, hopefully in the next few weeks. All right, the next one for buy or sell, number 6. Jedd Fisch is now 1-11 at Arizona. Shane, are you buying or selling the notion that Jedd Fisch will eventually see 500 in his Arizona tenure as far as evening his record wins and losses?
You're making me do math during this podcast.
He's 1-11. He's 10 games under 500.
I know. I got it. So in my mind, so let's see. Okay, he goes 6-6 the following year. Maybe let's say 7-6 with a low-level bowl win, and then wins 8 games the next 2 years. He gets up there. Yeah. Gosh, I think it's going to be close. I think it's I will buy it, because it would be hypocritical for me to talk up Jedd Fisch as much as I have after hating the hire initially, right, and then saying he's never going to be an above 500 coach at Arizona. So I will buy that reluctantly, but if I have to pick one or the other, I'll buy.
Oh, I'm selling that one all day. Okay. I mean, you could put that one on the market if, sell that all day. You're talking about a guy that if he has one good season at Arizona, he's going to look to move elsewhere. I mean, I believe that. I don't look at, and you and I have talked about that, and that's a good problem for Arizona to have. I mean, if Jedd Fisch turns things around here and gets to Arizona 9-4 with a bowl win, or 8-4 going into the bowls with a win over ASU, and somebody else hires him away from a Power 5 school, that's a good problem for Arizona to have.
And then they hire from within with Brennan Carroll and make him the next head coach, right?
Well, right. I mean, there are rumors about Brennan Carroll to Auburn as an offensive coordinator. I don't know if I buy that, but I mean, he is being rumored there. It's amazing that these guys from a 1-11 staff are getting poached. Don Brown, Brennan Carroll. It's interesting. Anyways, I don't think he'll ever see anywhere close to 500 again. I mean, you look at Arizona's schedule next year. I don't see 6-6. I see more like 4-8, 3-9 at this point. And at that point, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's 16 games under 500, unless he's staying 10 years, which, I mean, at this point, knowing Jedd Fisch's career trajectory would be surprising, and if he gets fired for not doing well, or he does great and somebody poaches him away.
I will say this. I really actually do believe Jedd Fisch when he says that he and his family would like to stay in one place for a while. And they do have two girls, and I'm sure that they would love to stay in one area. So no, look, if he gets better job offers, if that happens, then he's going to go eventually. But I don't think he's going to be ready to bolt as quickly as some think at the first hint of success.
So Dick Tomey was in Tucson for what, like 15 years? 14 years? Okay. Mike Stoops, I think, was like 7
and a half.
7.5.
Yep.
Rich Rod was 6. Yeah.
Well, and both of those guys got fired. I mean, they and Rich Rod, I think, flirted with South Carolina, but he decided to come back.
Right.
So,
I mean, Arizona's coaches do stay generally. I mean, Sumlin, you had to fire the guy.
Yeah.
So you would think Jedd Fisch, all right, let's say Jedd Fisch is here 6 or 7 years. I mean, maybe you could buy it with that logic. At this point, I just don't see a good year in 2022, regardless of the talent that's coming in. So I'm gonna sell that. If he comes from 16 games below 500 and bounces back.
Yeah, I should have had you go first on that one, because I think you've sold me in the other direction.
Okay, and I was just I guess the 7th one, the over under on Jedd Fisch years coached at Arizona. I'm putting the over under at 3.5 years. That he is fired in the middle of his 4th year at this current rate. Are you taking the over or under? Now, we all hope it's the over. Don't get me wrong.
Well, first of all, this is not in the proper buy or sell format, so I don't think I'm obligated to answer.
Are you buying the over 3.5?
Okay, all right, that's better.
Are you selling that? Yes.
Am I buying the over 3.5? I'll buy it. Yes.
Okay.
I think he'll be at Arizona, because I do think he will leave for greener pastures if he has some success, but I don't think Arizona is going to win 8 or 9 games necessarily in year 3. I think it would take at least 4 years to get there. You think back to the Mike Stoops era, they won 6 games and then a 7th game, a bowl game in year 5. It takes a while to turn around a program, some a little bit easier than others. Arizona is not a destination football school as well as they've been recruiting. So I think it's going to take a little longer for him to get there.
Okay, bonus question. As you know, every week I give you a question that I don't prep you for.
You're already laughing about this one.
Yeah, I'm already laughing about this. This is too good. All right, so the bonus question is buy or sell. The next edition of Shane Dale's ASU U of A rivalry book will be about Jedd Fisch's tenure at Arizona.
I am done writing.
You're not writing another book no more?
Yeah, I should. I mean, well, we can get into that if you want, but no, I think I may write more books. I think I'm tapped out with territorial cup stuff.
Okay, good. I just want to check on that. All right. That was our bonus question. That's buy or sell.
Fine.
And thanks to our great sponsor, Backcourt Marketing, for sponsoring the show and that segment, of course. Coming up next, Adam Gorney from Rivals and Yahoo Sports going to talk recruiting with us. Can Arizona land T-Mac? We'll find out here on Wildcat Country. Shane, always glad to have on Adam Gorney, National Recruiting Director for Rivals and Yahoo Sports. As I said before we came on the air, Adam, nothing like talking about a 1-11 team trying to recruit, but Jedd Fisch and company are doing a pretty good job. Just your overall thoughts of what's going on with Arizona and its recruiting efforts heading into the signing day here shortly.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult when you have that record going into signing day and trying to sell the dream, but that's what they're doing. And they're only year 1 into this, so there's still plenty of time to do this. He's still selling, all of his experience. Bringing in Johnny Nansen is definitely going to be beneficial. And so, a lot of kids and fans get caught up in records and all those kinds of things. And kids do too. They want to play for winning programs. But they also see opportunity here, big opportunity. They can get on the field pretty much wherever they like. There's definitely early playing time in Tucson. And so I think that has helped with recruiting, and it will help in this final week before they close it down for early signing period.
Yeah, Adam, I wanted to ask you about Johnny Nansen. The consensus seems to be great recruiter, don't know much in terms of X's and O's. He really hasn't had much of an opportunity there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely a great recruiter. There's no doubt about it. One of the best recruiters in the Pac-12 has been. That's why, one of the big reasons why he's been wanted at so many schools. Washington, he did a very good job, then went to SC and did a very good job, and then went to UCLA, and did well there, and is now at Arizona. So that's one of the reasons why he's such a high-profile guy, is because he has had a great track record of success recruiting. He is Samoan, so getting into that Polynesian community is absolutely big and important. He's from California. He's originally from Samoa, but from California. So he has connections there. So Johnny Nansen is absolutely one of the most well-connected assistant coaches in the Pac-12. And I think he's going to have that success, at least getting kids on campus and then trying to intrigue them from there to come to Arizona to play for him.
You look at some of the defensive players who have already committed to Arizona before Nansen arrived, in particular, 4-star linebacker Tyler Martin, who's a Massachusetts native who was recruited heavily by Don Brown himself, one of Arizona's top commits for next season. He's given no indication yet that he's going to decommit. Does Arizona keep him and most of those other guys, in your opinion?
Yeah, from what I understand, Tyler Martin is still very much locked in with Arizona. I will say that I think it will be interesting to see how that all plays out now that Don Brown is coaching in the Northeast. Turning down a Pac-12 spot to play at UMass is not really all that intriguing. We'll see how that plays out in the final days. But yeah, he is a big linebacker hitter, little lumbering, maybe a little slow for that space in the Pac-12, but definitely someone who can come into the box and make running very, very difficult. So a nice pickup when Don Brown was there. I've seen no indication that he's, ready to flip or anything like that. So I think Arizona right now holds on.
There we go. I was on mute, of course. All right. So, Adam, the big commit for Arizona is, or the big commit is Noah Fafita and Kean Burnett, the two biggest commits from Servite, and obviously Jacob Manu as well. So you've got that pipeline. There's also a guy who happens to be a 5-star who we've talked about on the podcast several times, T-Mac. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name, is an Oregon commit, but we know with the coaching upheaval in college football, Mario Cristobal is now in Coral Gables, Florida. So what happens to T-Mac in your opinion?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about those Servite guys too, because they're really, really good. But let's talk about T-Mac a little bit. He always wanted to play at Oregon. Grew up, was from Hawaii, followed Marcus Mariota very, very closely. Always wanted to play at Oregon. Was not ever someone that was all that into the recruiting process. He didn't really want to do the whole recruiting thing. He wasn't really all that interested in it. During COVID, he had been in Hawaii for like a long stretch, like at least a few weeks. And didn't even take his phone to do recruiting stuff with him. So that's kind of like, the background of what T-Mac is like. And his name is really easy. It's Tetaroa. It's nothing really too complicated.
Yeah, Tetaroa. Okay. All right.
It looks intimidating. It looks intimidating, but it's not.
It's easy. But yeah, so now Mario Cristobal leaves. There's certainly upheaval there among the coaching staff. And he's going up there, pretty much alone. Other Southern California guys are in that recruiting class. But that is going to be tough. I'm not completely sold that he's like this Cristobal disciple that needs to follow him to Miami or anything like that. Although I'm sure Cristobal will try to get him as soon as possible to visit. There's certainly things that are attractive. He loves the water. He loves being near the ocean, all those kinds of things. So South Florida is definitely appealing. But I will say that Arizona would be the other option right now. I don't think it would be USC. I don't really feel that USC is much of a player here. Arizona would be the other option. He's a kid that isn't crazy about recruiting, isn't really into the whole thing of playing for the biggest program and whatever else. And his friends are going there. So I definitely think this is going to be interesting down the road. Now, I'm not kind of calling for a flip to Arizona, but as we all know, he visited out there. He loved it. He had a great time. He's around friends, and he would be immediately number one target on that offense. So all of those things are playing in Arizona's favor. If there is a kid who's now a 5-star for Rivals, if there's a kid who would like surprise people and go to a school that no one really expected from afar, it would be a kid like T-Mac that would go to Arizona.
And if that happened, I think the Jed Fish revival would be amongst the fan base, at least, would explode. So that'd be great. Talk about those other three Servite kids. Obviously, Noah Fafita, we've had on the podcast a couple of times. Great kid. Kean Burnett, we've had on once as well. Jacob, we haven't had on, but just talk about their impact at the next level and how they will help Arizona in the coming years.
Yeah, Fafita is a kid at the high school level has been so good and just really is a playmaker and really gets the ball out and really leads the offense, and his teammates love him, and he'll take a shot and all those kinds of things. Like all the things that you want from your quarterback, he's willing to do. And it just comes back to he's about 5'7", 5'8". You know, he is just short. Like there's nothing that anybody could do about that. So the question then becomes, can he see over Pac-12 offensive lines? Can he throw the ball over outreach arms of defensive linemen? Can he do all of those things at the Pac-12 level? I say yes, he absolutely can, but the height will always be an issue. The height was an issue for Bryce Young, but he's like 5'11", maybe on the cusp of 6 feet tall. Noah is shorter than that. So when you see him on the football field, you're like, man, that kid is short and he's not going to be able to do anything out here against really, really good competition. And then he goes out and does it all the time. So he's a kid that's getting a bump in the rankings. Nothing crazy because we are worried about his size and if it just translates to the high school game, but he's very, very good. And I think someone like Jed Fish that can work with that and believes in that. Kean Burnett is one of the best looking kids in Southern California. The problem is his production hasn't been like off the charts in his senior year. So you think of him like, you know, he's a guy who looks great. Maybe they're just not throwing him the ball because they have T-Mac. Maybe they don't, you know, use him a lot because they had a pretty good running game this year. But he's a guy that can get open. There was a play where he was kind of compared to DK Metcalf sprinting down the field like 80 yards the other way to catch somebody this year. He has athleticism. There's no doubt about it. Good hands. And physically, when you see him on the field with pads on, he looks great. So that's a kid that's going to be able to be used in the pass game. And Manu is an undersized linebacker, but he makes tons of plays. And as like the longer I've done this, linebacker size to me is really not all that important. Guys who can get guys on the ground matter. Like I want guys who fly around the field, play with reckless abandon, can fill holes, diagnose plays and run after guys and play in space, especially in the Pac-12. You know, with targeting and personal fouls and everything else, like there aren't many Noah Souls out there that can
Scooby Wright.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So guys that can rack up tackles, get guys on the ground, that's what matters at linebacker. That's what he does. So maybe once in a while he'll get run over by a running back, but he's going to pop right back up and put people on the ground too. So that's a kid that I actually really like. I think is pretty undervalued and could have a really nice career.
All right, Adam, and just so you know, Eric, I got 3 questions, and I'll let you have the end, just so we're chatting about that, so we don't talk over each other. I got 3 more for you, Adam. I'll try to make it quick. We talked about 2 of the 4-star commits that Arizona currently has per Rivals. We haven't talked about the other defensive end, Sterling Lane. What should Arizona fans know about him?
Yeah, Sterling Lane was a kid that kind of came on really fast in his high school career, freshman, sophomore year. Really, really good player, and kind of like topped out right there. He's been very similar to what he's been, which is not a criticism at all. It's just he's kind of an edge rusher, but can stand up and play in space, can kind of do both. Smart kid, makes a lot of plays, and does those kinds of things. It's actually surprising that his recruitment didn't take off more heading into his junior and senior season, because he's a good-looking kid, long. He has a teammate, Matthias Malachi Donaldson, who's going to Oregon State, who is like super freaky and long, but is really like rail thin. Lane isn't as long, but he's thicker. So it was kind of like a tandem there that they had at Oaks Christian for a couple of years. But he's going to be a guy that can edge rush. He can handle, bigger offensive tackles, or he can kind of drop into space a little bit and play that way. So definitely another nice pickup along that defensive line.
I'm sure you're trying to keep track of transfer portal craziness like the rest of us are. A lot of big name quarterbacks out there who have entered the portal who are from Arizona. Spencer Rattler, Chubba Purdy, Jack Miller. Any chance that any of those guys end up at Arizona, or is there any other quarterbacks that maybe we should keep an eye on out here?
Yeah, I think it's a little too early to really gauge where they are. I think Rattler is UCLA-ish, Arizona State maybe, but I've heard a lot of UCLA talk about Spencer Rattler. Play 1 year for Chip Kelly, get out. If Chip Kelly stays at UCLA, that caveat is still part of it. Purdy is an interesting one because he never really got it going at Florida State because of injuries and stuff like that. So coming back home could definitely re-spark his career. Very talented player, can really get going. Jack Miller is another one who was a very talented player in high school, probably overshot a little bit by going to Ohio State into a quarterback room that was filled when he got there, filled up even more by the time he left. So Arizona would be a good spot for him too. But I don't think, I would be surprised if all three of those guys, if Rattler goes to Arizona, I'd be surprised. The other two could certainly be in play.
Okay. And my last question for you, and once again, Adam, we really appreciate your time. We know it's valuable. As of this recording, Arizona is tied for 39th in Rivals team rankings for 2022, just inside the top 40. Your prediction, will they stay there, or will they stay in that top 40, or will they drop down a bit before the signing days here?
Yeah, if they kind of, they're at 16 right now. I would say that being in the top 50 would be more of where they should be shooting for. The issue is, at least let's just take a look at the Pac-12. USC right now only has 5 commits. We know that's going to change once Lincoln Riley starts getting guys in there and they start committing. And a lot of guys are still waiting until signing day to make their decisions, and we know it's going to be USC. So they're going to move up. Arizona State only has 6. UCLA has 5 4-stars, only 12 commits. Once they start filling out that class, they're going to be in there. So having 16 is great, but there are definitely some schools who have still a lot of room to go before signing day, which they will move up, not Arizona moving down, if that makes sense. That all changes if T-Mac commits, because that's a 5-star that can kind of hold off some guys loading up on 4-stars heading into signing day. So I would say right now, shoot for the 50 range. If you're under that, somewhere in the 40s, you should probably feel pretty good about it.
Come on, T-Mac. Come on, commit to us. All right, Adam, last question from me, and this is not Arizona related, but just with all of this craziness in terms of college coaching changes, just talk about from your point of view and kind of the way you do your job. You prepare for years on end, assuming a coach is going to be, at a certain school and is recruiting this kind of kids. Just explain what the last few weeks have been like for you when it comes to evaluating prospects, where they're going to go, making crystal ball predictions, et cetera.
Yeah, signing day week is usually crazy. Like every day stuff is happening. There's movement, incredible amount of rumors that you have to chase, and 80% of them aren't true. And there are some assistant coaches flopping around here or there that you really want to follow, coordinators and things like that. But this has been like that for like 3 weeks now. So we don't know if it's like COVID related, because there weren't as many coaching changes as a normal year last year. Some ADs and presidents might not thought it was great PR to fire a coach during a situation like that. And so it has taken on like a world of its own. I mean, Oklahoma's coach went to USC and Notre Dame's coach went to LSU in the matter of like 48 hours. It's just a lot of movement, a lot of craziness. And that lends to kids looking around, kids taking other visits, some kids looking for stability, so they're looking at other programs, some kids getting really excited about it. Oklahoma had a 5-star quarterback committed that flipped immediately, a 5-star running back that flipped to USC immediately. It has been wild. I mean, it's been great for business because people are really excited and interested in all the stuff that's going on. But when you're talking about, we now have about 35 stars and then another 8 or so in the 2023 class. So about 40 players there, and then hundreds of 4-stars, and then even more 3-stars that are all like in this washer all together. And every, Lincoln Riley going to USC doesn't mean that it just ends there. It means that someone has to hire the Oklahoma coach, which means Clemson now doesn't have a defensive coordinator, which means whoever they hire, it's just like a domino effect that will never end until they finally kick off the 2022 football season. So it has been a wild few weeks. It looks like it's starting to slow down. We'll see what happens at Oregon, and as things settle in here, as hires happen. There's still a few weeks of it, but then we're right into signing day week. So Wednesday is a week from signing day, and that week is wild, especially with in-home visits happening the final weekend before signing day, and then the 3 days leading into it will be pretty nuts.
Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with Shane and I about Arizona, and best of luck over the next 8 days as signing day commences. And we always appreciate having you on the show.
Of course, anytime, guys. See you.
Thanks, Adam.
I want to read you a message from Josette, a small business owner in Scottsdale. Josette says, Backcourt Marketing created a social media strategy for all of my gyms. They post engaging content every day and have really brought up the analytics on all of my pages. We meet to go over marketing ideas every month, and I really appreciate their personalized approach. That, in a nutshell, is the kind of return on your investment that you can expect when you trust Backcourt Marketing to fulfill your company's social media needs. This is a company that helps businesses reach their target audience online and build a brand that will crush the competition. They're a dedicated, knowledgeable team of brand advocates, designers, and creative writers who will help take your business to the next level. Make sure to get your business noticed. Call 480-744-6173. That's 480-744-6173. Or email team, TEAM, at backcourtmarketing.com to get started. And remember, Backcourt Marketing is the marketing agency for those who love competition.
I want to thank Adam Gorney for joining us. I think that's the third time we've had him on. Shane, great info as always. And will Arizona land T-Mac? What is your prediction?
My buying or selling?
Yes, bonus.
I'll have to sell just because it's just that 5-star would look so out of place. Although Adam made a good point that he's not like most 5-star guys, and if he's going to come to a 1-11 Arizona team, he definitely isn't like most 5-star guys. But I guess I'll just believe it when I see it at this point.
I thought it was a great question you asked as well about Arizona's quarterback next year if they go after one of the transfers from out of state. I think Chubba Purdy makes a lot of sense, but we're going to find out. I think as Adam pointed out, I think we just wait until after signing day, and I would assume sometime in January we'll get our new quarterback, who I do not believe is on the roster right now, including Noah Fafita. The height thing that we had discussed before scares me a little bit. He's listed at 5'10". Adam said 5'7", 5'8". But then again, Kyler Murray. Which
is what, 5'9", right? 5'9".
Kyler Murray is not 5'9", and he's more like 5'8". He's more like 5'8" in real life.
Okay.
They always add an inch.
Yeah.
So you never know. I guess we'll find out. Lamont Lovett has always told me size doesn't matter. It's just the heart and the playmakers, the color commentator for the Wildcats. So I'm going to trust him there and not go into another size rant about that. Shane, there was something that came out on Twitter that I really wanted to point out. A Reddit college football came out with a top 25 list of which teams fans drink the most. I would assume that Arizona would have been on this list, and they were 17th. Apparently at 3.1 drinks per game, tied with Oregon, Michigan, and Florida. Number one is Nebraska at 4.5, Minnesota 4.0, Wisconsin and LSU at 3.9. I don't know who comes up with this. Are you surprised at Arizona's ranking and the fact that ASU is not on there?
I think most Arizona fans had the same reaction I had, which is That's it. 17 after watching this team for the last several years. I think we must have cracked the top 25 in the last year or so. I'm surprised it's not top 10, but, and then you look at Nebraska, Minnesota, what else is there to do in those states in the winter? So
that's good. That keeps you warm, right?
Right.
So the thing about drinking, and I think I've said this before, I don't drink when I go to a U of A football game. It's like I have to remember every play that happens. And that's probably not a good formula. I should probably switch that up. I have friends that are just the opposite. They'd rather not remember every play.
They'd rather forget every play.
Yeah, they just skip the first half and then just get sober for the second half.
I'll tell you what, if you had a drinking game where you take a drink every time Arizona stops short in the red zone, you'd be
oh my God, you'd be
in rehab.
It'd be wasted. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about the college football playoff. I know we're not going to make picks. Did the committee get it right? Obviously with Cincinnati, Shane. And the question is, if based on what you saw, let's say Oklahoma State scored on the last play of the Big 12 championship game, and they had won barely in an unimpressive way over Baylor.
They went full Arizona in the red zone in that game.
Yeah, they were brutal. So if they had won that game and Cincinnati won, which is fairly convincingly, who would you have put in fourth?
Gosh, I was thinking about that last week. Like, okay, Alabama wins, and then it comes down to those two teams. And then you look at how they would have won in those games. And Cincinnati, I'll tell you, they didn't just beat Houston, a very good Houston team. That they rolled them. They were up 3 scores in the fourth quarter. It really wasn't close at the end. Gosh, I kind of wish the committee had to make that decision just to watch them squirm, because it was really simple when Oklahoma State lost and then Alabama won. It made it really easy. Those are the top 4.
Yep.
I think they absolutely got it right.
Sure.
As far as who should be in, oh man, I still don't know, Eric. I'm not trying to avoid the question. I really don't know. I
don't think Oklahoma State, you'd have to take them out. I thought they were completely.
I would lean that way as well. Yeah. I would lean that way too.
Cincinnati did everything you could have asked for them. Their schedule was what was what it was. Indiana, who they creamed earlier in the year, was a preseason top 15 team that went 2-10. That's not their fault. They played who was on their schedule. They beat Notre Dame, who was the 5th ranked team. That's all you can do. And it'll be interesting to watch Notre Dame and Oklahoma State in the Fiesta Bowl. Looking forward to that. All right, give me. I know these aren't your official picks. Does Cincinnati have a chance against Alabama and Georgia, Michigan? Is this going to be an SEC SEC rematch in the finals?
We're not making picks yet. I think Cincinnati-Bama is going to be closer than a lot of people think.
Okay. All right.
I think it'll be close. I cannot pick Cincinnati. I would love to see it. I'm actually happy with the matchups. I would rather Bama not been in, but we want to see a group of 5 team get in. And see what they can do. And so, okay, well, here's Cincinnati. Here's your chance against the powerhouse of the last decade plus. Okay, and Bama maybe not quite as good as they usually are, or as dominant, but they just beat the number 1 team in the country. So, I absolutely love the matchup. I'm disappointed Bama got in, but I love the fact that Cincinnati, the first group of 5 team to get into college football playoff, has that opportunity. Michigan, Georgia is a fantastic matchup, and I would love to have seen that as a championship game, but. I think, as much as I've been a Jim Harbaugh apologist, I think Georgia,
yes.
I want to say Georgia took its foot off the gas a little bit, knowing they were going to be in either way. I still think they're overall the best team in the country. And I think if they have a chance to play Alabama again, I think it could be a different result. So I'm going to pick Georgia. Well, I'm not going to pick officially right now, but as of now, where I'm leaning is I guess that SEC rematch you talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Georgia wins big against Michigan. I still don't buy Michigan. I'm sorry. I think Georgia out-physicals them, and I think Alabama crushes Cincinnati. I hope I'm wrong, especially on Alabama. I hope Georgia beats Michigan. Never been a Michigan guy. And I think Georgia wins the title. I think you get a rematch there, and I think Georgia makes adjustments, and Kirby Smart finally gets over the hump and beats Saban. But we will make our official picks. I reserve the right to change those opinions, as do you. We will make our official picks in upcoming episodes of Wildcat Country. All right, Shane, we have not mentioned the women's basketball team because they didn't play last week due to a COVID forfeit. They are number 6 in the country. They play, I believe it is North Dakota State and New Mexico this week. Can you believe that the women are number 6 and Ari McDonald is not on the team?
Very impressive. And a lot of that has to do with that win over Louisville, obviously. But they had the tournament overseas and they won them all. I mean, they should have, but it's still tough to win 3 straight games on 3 straight days. And then they got progressively better as that tournament went on. That they barely won the first one, and then the last game, I think it was against Rutgers. I have a hard time remembering it because it was actually during the Territorial Cup game, but it was like 35-8 at some point in the first half. So they're dominating, and they're doing it with defense. And that's why I think that they still have a chance to be a very good team. I don't know if they're going to be a top 10 mainstay. And I know Arizona loves its doubters, so I'm happy to oblige in a small role. But with the defense that they play, they're such a pain in the butt for anyone who comes against them. They could definitely stay in the top 25, maybe even the top 10 for the foreseeable future.
And once again, Arizona is the only school as of today that has an undefeated men's basketball team and an undefeated women's basketball team. So finally, Shane, as we close out the show, will that streak continue into next week and the next time we do a podcast? Will Arizona beat Illinois? Give me your prediction.
Yeah. And again, like you mentioned, Erica, we're recording this before the Wyoming game as well. And Wyoming is not going to be an easy out, even though it is a game Arizona should win at home. So with the assumption at this point that Arizona will win that game, I think it's going to be tough. I think this might be Arizona's first bump in the road. I think Arizona is probably a better team, but they haven't really played a good team on the road. Oregon State is not a good team. They did what they were supposed to do, but Oregon State is not a good team. I think Illinois has some of is a tough matchup, has some of the size to really compete with Arizona in the post. So you're putting me on the spot. I would lean Illinois. I don't see a downside because if I'm wrong, I'd love to be wrong. So I'm going to go with Arizona losing its first game of the season. I think they beat Wyoming. I think they lose to Illinois.
No, I have a feeling, Shane. It's a fine pick. I assume Illinois will be a slight favorite, and they're coming off a nice road win at Iowa. Illinois is. I just think this Arizona team is different, and I think there's always something when Arizona plays Illinois. We all think back to 2005 and what happened.
I prefer to think back to 2001 when they beat Illinois and got to the Final Four.
Okay, good. That's fine. I think back to 2005, my senior year, and my class, I believe, was the first 4-year class that did not make a Final Four since 1985's incoming class, something like that. 1984's incoming class.
Thinking about that, yeah. 97, 01,
there's
04.
88. Yeah. So, that my class of 2001 was the first that never saw a Final Four in 4 years. And obviously they haven't been back to one since. I think Arizona gets this win. I think it's ugly. I'm going to say something like 78-75. Not ugly, but it'll be a fun game. But just at the end of the game is going to be one of those gut wrenchers where you're holding your you-know-whats. They got to win over Michigan, who, has been inconsistent, but beat a decent San Diego State team the other day. And I think the Big Ten is good. I think it's a good conference. We saw Ohio State beat Duke. And I think that Illinois is one of the top teams in the Big Ten. I think Arizona is one of the top teams in the nation. I think they go into Champaign and pull off the win. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I'm on to something here. Want to once again thank our sponsor, Backcourt Marketing, for all of their support for our show. Check them out at backcourtmarketing.com. Also on Twitter, where they are going to be doing some fun little memes and such as they did during the ASU football game. We're going to do that for some of the basketball games. Check them out on Twitter at Backcourt MKTG. And then our friends at All AZ Sports, thank you as always for producing the podcast. Thanks to Adam Gorney for joining us. For Shane Dale, I'm Eric Cohen. As always, bear down.